12 astrological houses, what they are and their meanings. The astrological houses tell us which are the fields of experience in which the energies of the signs and planets act. The birth chart is made up of 3 fundamental elements: signs, planets, and houses. Each of these elements is fundamental for the interpretation of the birth chart. The zodiac signs represent the type of energy that the individual has available, the planets the ways of action of the individual, while the houses represent the sectors of experience in which the planets manifest their action. It is the astrological houses, therefore, that indicate to us which are the fields of experience in which the energies of the signs and planets act. If the planets and signs tell us about how a person acts on a psychological level, the houses tell us where the energies will tend to manifest themselves and what type of experiences, individual and social, the individual is called to face, by choice or destiny. The astrological houses. In astrology, there are 12 astrological houses, and they are graphically identifiable as segments within the circle of the zodiac. The lines separating one house from another are called cusps and depend on the time and place of birth of each person. Without the time of birth, it is not possible to perform domification, or the division of the zodiac into the 12 houses. There are many different methods of domification. The most used is that of Placidus. The other most well-known are those of Koch, Campanus, and Regiomontanus. The first house begins with the ascendant, which is the point where the eastern horizon of the Earth intersects the zodiac. Each house offers important information on how the person lives certain experiences. For example, if you want to understand how a person lives his relationships, what type of partner he is attracted to, and what is the relationship model he prefers, you will have to refer to the 7th house. If instead you want to discover how the person handles money and his resources, you will have to look at the 2nd house, and so on. Not all the houses of the birth chart are occupied by planets. Some houses are empty. This can generate a bit of concern, because an empty house generally gives the idea that nothing significant will happen in that area of one's life. In reality, this is not the case. Each house always has something to tell us, even when it has no planets inside it. Each house is in fact occupied by a zodiac sign, often even 2, and therefore is never empty. The sign occupied by the house, and the analysis of its dispositor will allow us to discover the secrets of that house. First house or ascendant. The first house, or ascendant, is the house of personality, and is symbolically connected to the sign of Aries. The ascendant has great importance in astrology. In fact, in addition to marking the cusp or starting point of the first house, it represents the set of psychophysical characteristics of the individual and the external traits of the personality. Second house. The second house is the house of money and wealth, and is symbolically connected to the sign of Taurus. Possessions, resources, talents, values, and financial skills are all expressed by the second house. The sign in which it is located allows us to discover not only where the main sources of income come from, but also the time frames in which an individual will be able to consolidate their economic position or form one. Third house. The third house is the house of intelligence, communication, and intellectual abilities, and is symbolically connected to the sign of Gemini. Studies, small trips, contracts are all expressed by the third house. It is a house that indicates sociability, the desire to meet people, exchange ideas, learn new things. The sign in which it is located and the planets within it indicate the degree of sociability of an individual, the ease in making friends and relationships with relatives, especially brothers or sisters. Fourth house. The fourth house is the house of the past and of the family of origin, and is symbolically connected to the sign of Cancer. It is in the fourth house that you can find information about the past, childhood, protection, and emotional nourishment that each person has received or not from their parents. The way in which the most intimate relationships will be managed will be influenced by the conditioning received from the parents and by the ability or not to free oneself from it. Fifth house. The fifth house is the house of creativity and entertainment and is symbolically connected to the sign of Leo. It is in this house that you can find information about the creativity you have and what brings you the most pleasure in life. The sign in which it is located and the planets within it allow you to discover how a person lives their erotic and sexual life and to identify any excesses or difficulties. Sixth house. The sixth house is the house of work and health and is symbolically connected to the sign of Virgo. It is in the sixth house where material needs are compared with those of the outside world and the propensity to serve others. The ability or otherwise to adapt to daily rhythms, the sense of duty, health conditions, and body care are all expressed by the sixth house. Seventh house. The seventh house, or descendant, is the house of marriage and stable unions and is symbolically linked to the sign of Libra. It is in this house that it is possible to discover which partner we will be attracted to during our existence and obtain indications regarding the person we will marry. The way in which the most intimate relationships will proceed also depends on the ability to collaborate in the relationship, and this is another aspect revealed by the seventh house. Eighth house. The eighth house is the house of inheritances, joint ownership, the occult, and is symbolically linked to the sign of Scorpio. It is related to the unconscious, dreams, death, and sexuality. A prominent eighth house, i.e. with many planets in it, often indicates professions that have to do with handling other people's money, such as bankers, cashiers, stockbrokers, but also emotional and financial help received from others. Ninth house. The ninth house is the house of travel, philosophical speculation, and spiritual evolution, and is symbolically linked to the sign of Sagittarius. It is the house of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and higher studies. Defined by astrological tradition as the house of vocation, it pushes one to follow one's aptitudes and to realize them. The ninth house reflects the ethical aspirations and moral evolution of an individual, concerns distant travel and relationships with foreign people. 10th house. The 10th house is the house of career and personal goals and is symbolically linked to the sign of Capricorn. It highlights the type of profession one aspires to and the possibility of making a career or reaching an important social position. It indicates relationships with figures of power and the efforts that are made to achieve professional fulfillment and independence. 11th house. The 11th house is the house of friendships, hopes, and long-range projects, and is symbolically linked to the sign of Aquarius. Among its meanings is social commitment, which can be realized in humanitarian or political causes, and the ability to work creatively in group activities. The planets that are in the 11th house tell us which social activities attract us and what aspirations and projects for the future we have. 12th house. Demonized by many astrologers as a bearer of misfortune and great trials, the 12th house, despite being a complex house, is not necessarily catastrophic. Opposite to the 6th house, the house of order, of work as a daily obligation and dependence on others, the 12th house represents the sublime, the capacity for abstraction, the possibility of reaching broader horizons, detachment from routine, the search for isolation or exile. Considered by many astrologers as the house of karma, it requires redemption from one's past actions through a true personal transformation.